Okay, one more problem. This is still out of Larson's Chapter 1, Section 1.3. This is number 87. I didn't really talk about this today in class, but it's a very hard problem, very important problem. I think it'll be on our next test, so you definitely want to be able to do problems like this. So let me show you this. What they do is they give us a function, and then they give us a limit using that function that they want us to find. So it's kind of tricky. You have to take this function and put it into this definition of limit. So what we're going to end up with here is f of x is going to be, this thing right here, that's f of x right there. F of x plus delta x, what's that? Well, that's x plus delta x put in where x is. So that's equal to 1 over x plus delta x plus 3. So we're going to subtract these two functions and divide it by delta x, and then find the limit as delta x goes to 0 of that new function, okay, complicated function. So this is going to look like this. This is going to be our f of x plus delta x right here. So let me get rid of this and say, okay, we want to find the limit as delta x goes to 0 of f of x plus delta x minus f of x, that's 1 over x plus 3, right? This is f of x, this is f of x plus delta x, and we have to divide that whole thing by delta x. So this is just an algebraic, nightmare. You're going to have to do a bunch of algebra to figure out, what's going on here. Okay? So step one, you're going to need a common denominator. You're adding or subtracting these two fractions in the numerator, so you're going to need a common denominator. And that just is a heck of a lot of work to get that, to work out. So let me give you a hint there, and if that's all the hint you need, stop watching the video right now and go ahead and get a common denominator there and subtract those two fractions and watch what happens. If you want a little bit more of a hint about that, let me show you how we're going to get a common denominator, and then we can go for there. So let me get rid of the limit because I need to write over here, and I'm going to write over here. So it's going to be a big algebra problem here. So here I'm going to multiply by x plus delta x plus 3 over x plus delta x plus 3. My mistake, I don't need to multiply by the delta x there, it's already there. Pardon me, let me back up a little bit. So here I'm going to multiply by x plus 3 over x plus 3. Over here I'm going to multiply by the x plus delta x plus 3 over x plus delta x plus 3. So what we've done there is we've kind of cross-multiplied, so we end up with the same denominator for both these fractions, x plus 3 and x plus delta x plus 3. I don't really need this parentheses here, so I'm going to move it and put it down here. It makes it, look more symmetric. All right? So our numerator now is a big ugly fraction. It looks like this, x plus 3 times x plus delta x plus 3. That's the denominator, so we're combining these two fractions. We have a common denominator, so that ends up as our whole denominator. The numerator is going to be x plus 3 and then minus this big ugly numerator there. I'm going to distribute that negative, so every one of these becomes minus, so it's going to be minus x, minus delta x, and minus 3. So hopefully you look at that and you say, okay, that kind of makes sense to me. Let's take a look at that numerator. What happened there? We have x plus 3, and then minus this whole thing right here. So minus the x, minus the delta x, minus the 3. Minus x, minus delta x, minus 3. Okay? Let me show you what's going to happen with the delta x in the denominator, because we don't want to forget that. That's still there. This is delta x over 1. So when you're dividing a fraction, I think of it as I'm going to invert and multiply. So I'm going to take that delta x over 1. We're dividing by delta x over 1. I'm going to invert and multiply that, so it's going to be times 1 over delta x. So this delta x over 1 goes over here and multiplies 1 over delta x. So let me get rid of this so it makes it a little bit cleaner. We can hopefully see what's going on here. Okay? So dividing by delta x is the same as multiplying by 1 over delta x. Okay? Now, the numerator is going to cancel. I have a positive x and a minus x. Those are going to cancel. I have a plus 3 and a minus 3. Those are going to cancel. So the only thing left in the numerator, and this is important, the only thing left in the numerator is minus delta x. Okay? And what's left in the denominator is x plus 3 and x plus delta x plus 3. And we're multiplying that times 1 over delta x. So now we're going to put a limit back in front of that. We're letting delta x go to 0. And now, if here's another place where you might want to stop and say, oh, okay, let me see if I can do it from this point on. So you could pause it there and finish the problem. If not, let's do it together. First off, this delta x and this delta x, numerator and denominator, they're going to cancel. Make sure you hold on to this negative. Don't get rid of that negative. Don't forget about that negative. It's still there. So that negative is definitely there. It's going to go with this 1 over here. We can now let delta x go to 0. So this delta x in the denominator is going to go to 0. And what we're going to end up with, what's left, is a negative 1 in the numerator. And the denominator, we have an x plus 3 times an x plus 3. So it's x plus 3 quantity squared. So that limit turns out to be negative 1, and that negative 1 is critical. You got to have the negative there, over parentheses x plus 3 squared. Very hard problem, very important problem. You'll definitely see that on this test or the next test. I'm not sure which, but it's a test question.